How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another Bitcoin video. Has been a few days, but essentially what happened over the weekend, price closed back under the 200 EMA. This was a warning signal because it means that the bullish crosses, which was a signal to suggest that a new potential trend in the upward direction was going to start, that has now been invalidated and confirmed resistance. In fact, it hit my expected target area of resistance. I was mentioning this on a daily basis on my Twitter, so make sure you go ahead and follow me over there as well. Sometimes it is just easier to get out a quick update like that. So you can see it in the bottom left corner. I do recommend following me over there as well. So it managed to pump into the 786, 886 and the 55 daily EMA and got rejected. This obviously showed another fake trap, another bull trap essentially, because Tuesday was a great day, pumping into that key level resistance. The following steps was break above the 200 EMA and there should be a move up into the 55. But that is where we expect resistance to come from. There has not been a test since the bearish cross, so it makes sense just to confirm that resistance. Now this is a bearish signal, so it's calling for new lower lows. The more we zoom out, it shows this retest is negative and it's looking to lose the range low. But while actually holding above the range low, it does have the right to bounce. It's just whether that bounce will sustain, and we constantly keep seeing the bounces not sustaining. And one of the biggest clues and signals for me was yesterday. So there was a lot of reactions to Trump speaking about these tariffs, these reciprocal tariffs. I think he's just done like a half of what he was saying before. But this has had a negative effect on the stock market today. In fact, the stock market is down more than some crypto. It's quite funny on a day like today. It has created a large gap on the SPX. So you'd expect it to fill in the gap. But guys, you can see with these dotted lines, this is a 200 EMA, taking an average of the last 200 days, so majority of the year. And so that was the macro support it had to hold. And the stock market, from there, it needed to recover and head into like 6.2K. Of course, we can still see that it later developed. It didn't even give a bounce from this location. That's absolutely awful for all markets or risk assets. Then you can see lost pretty much over the past few weeks, confirmed it as resistance. Last week as well, had a nice pump up into the moving averages, but as resistance. And of course, today's daily open for the stock market is currently down 4%. That is absolutely insane. So heading back to Bitcoin, with it not really reacting as of yet, you could argue that it is to come. Now, if the S&P does start moving back up, again, it could just be to fill in the wick before it starts continuing lower. That is going to be the risk when you lose the 200 daily EMA. And Bitcoin's in that same situation, playing around with this 200 EMA. But this signal yesterday is confirming it as resistance. We can also identify this smaller pattern here, this head and shoulders pattern. So nothing you want to see if you are bullish, if you're holding altcoins. Now, me personally, what am I doing in this period? I do let everyone know in my Discord community on a daily basis, but at least in this period, it does make sense. If you were to get involved in crypto, it is just to be in Bitcoin. It's going to be the least risk at the moment. And at a later date when the market has recovered and sorted itself out, you can trade altcoins. But in these moments, I personally am going to continue to DCA Bitcoin at the exact same rate as before, not increased or decreased. I'm just DCAing Bitcoin regardless of price and whether it goes up or down. No matter if it keeps going down for months or pumps for months, it doesn't matter to me. But with altcoins, there's a stricter criteria that I'm waiting for, and I need a 100K minimum reclaimed. But there are levels up ahead further than 100K that need reclaiming in order to sort this mess out. But that's a good starting point, recovering a psychological level, 100,000. Until that moment, I would not be touching altcoins. We keep seeing every single pump, they just get knocked back down. So I think the one with the least risk at the moment, if you still want to be involved in crypto, is going to be Bitcoin. By doing so, I've saved myself and my community countless amount of money since this dip got a lot worse than expected. Again, once it's dumping into the 200 EMA, you're expecting like an accumulation in this range for the trend to maintain and then continue higher. That is not what has played out over here. It looks like this consolidation zone since February has been attempting to flip this key area of previous support into resistance. And the signal from yesterday is very deafening The only way it can invalidate this signal for lower, for new lows, that would mean lower than these two green boxes. The only way Bitcoin is going, and alts, to save alts, a move up, that needs to start from this 80 to 82k area. This is what I've been suggesting in my Twitter and Discord and YouTube posts over the past week or so. This was the level price needed to recover the 200 EMA, flip it into support, and push through. Even if it gets rejected here, hold the 200 EMA and push through. That's what needed to happen. It's not what has been the case. Yesterday, the fundamental side of things changed the technicals. It ended up being a fake move up into my expected resistance, which by definition just means top. So expecting a top in this area, we can see that was confirmed. And then it had to have closed above the 200 EMA, closed under. Now this signal is suggesting that 80 to 82, although it can give another bounce once again, we can see last time it failed. So why should I have the expectation that this time it will break? No, my expectation should be it failed last time. It was given the chance, it didn't take it. Now we're back down into the level. Yes, it can bounce, but I really do not expect 88k again, 88.5k. I'm not expecting that again. At the most 85.5k at the most. So we should lower high beneath 85.5k and roll over and lose 80,000. This is the final layer of defense, and we can start talking about bearish targets beyond that point. We don't have to dive deep into that just yet, because support is not yet lost. But the signal from yesterday, what has been going on the past few days and weeks, this is setting up for lower. And I've been saying this while Bitcoin remains under 105k. I am bearish, but that does not mean I'm going to stop buying Bitcoin. That does not mean I'm going to slower the rate I'm buying Bitcoin. With altcoins, yes, absolutely. I haven't been touching altcoins since January. The end of January. I haven't been putting any fresh new money into altcoin since December. My mistake. January is where I flipped bearish, but yeah, already in December I just decided I'm not buying alt, just Bitcoin. This is what everyone in my Discord community has been aware of. So all that money since December has taken a hit, but not so much. Even at the worst points, you can see minus 30%, minus 25% from the highest of highs. But on average, if it was hovering around 95k, let's say, or 100k, it's not down that much. If we're looking at from 100k, it's been a lot longer in that 90 to 100k area. So down from there, it's not bad whatsoever. In that same time period, you're seeing altcoins down 50, 70%. So all that DCA money from December has been saved, coming from a capital preservation angle rather than, I need to make all that losses back ASAP. That's what put people in a worse situation, where they're even worse. Maybe they are a further 50 to 70% in that same time period, down that much more than if you were just accumulating Bitcoin when the signs started showing. For example, as soon as this area had cleared and lost it as support, very negative signal, I already started flipping bearish on this candlestick over here. When you get large wicks, and we were seeing this across the board on altcoins, they tend to fill them in. And you can see many days and weeks pass by looking like it's accumulating to eventually go and head up higher. And it just keeps disappointing everyone. Everyone that has hopes keeps being disappointed. You get further away than where you were before. You say, back then I should have swapped, but I'm not going to do so now because I'm in a worse hole. Then it goes down even more and you're like, I should have swapped back then. It's going to be a repeated cycle over and over again. There's not going to be a moment, the best moment, to switch to Bitcoin. If price is high, your altcoin's high, and so is Bitcoin's price. You're most likely not going to switch your altcoins over into Bitcoin. And when everything's down, the altcoins are worth nothing. Why would you change into Bitcoin? So ego is what stops. I've overcome that since December. Again, you know me all. I was dabbling with altcoins, left, right, center, in all the market cap variations, large caps, mid, small, and tiny, micro caps, whatever you want to call them. And all in all, since what's been going on pretty much since December, it's very clear. Nothing has sustained in an upward movement. There have been these points where certain narratives gain some hype, but nothing has sustained like previous bull cycles, like previous pumps. And in the end, we've seen what has remained king in this period. If we take a look at Bitcoin dominance, that has finally broken out. It's created the reverse wave. The wicks are getting filled. This is exactly what I was saying in my past few Bitcoin updates, that if 62% is broken, we're going to see 62.8 to 63.5, the next set of fibs. This is exactly what is going on right now. And let's say we do see a nice relief rally. That could be the S&P filling in that gap. That could see Bitcoin dominance come down a bit because altcoins outpump in bullish conditions, right? But it could just be that Bitcoin dominance is resetting, coming down into key levels, and then continues higher. So in this movement now, maybe you get like an altcoin bounce. But then once it finds its next key level, it's going to reverse, and you can see Bitcoin dominance continuing. This is my belief, unless I'm seeing 61.8 or 62 being lost as support. So there's not really much more to add. It is a waiting game, but I believe that this will eventually continue lower. That is just my thoughts as of now. I'm only going to start changing my stance in the slightest on a recovery of yesterday's candle. So if we recover yesterday's highest wick at 88.5k, then I could start talking in a more positive light for short term. But I still remain long-term bearish under 105k. In fact, all the way in this area over here is when I flip bearish. Once that was confirmed resistance, back then you'd have other levels because this all didn't develop. This was the move down we had. You could see back then it was actually 106 to 108 if you remember my videos. As it keeps developing with new lows, these change 105 to 107 now, 101 to 105, and then you can see the current ones 101 to 105. So that is the point. Everything flips bullish, everything, the whole entire market. That is where I will take interest in altcoins. But trying to buy bottoms has just led to minus 50%, minus 50%, minus 50% on top of it over and over and over again. Because Bitcoin is not technically in the immediate short term expected to go higher and higher and higher day after day. Like, could we sit here and say the next like 2, 3 days, 4 days should be a pump, and they're going to be a pump? We're saying that with confidence. No, we can't do that. But once it's above this point, it's created the reversal wave. It means these higher up targets all become valid and are expected to get met at least 120k at the very minimum once 105k is broken. We don't have these targets as expectations right now until that level is broken. So if it's not bullish, there's only one other direction, bearish. And we keep seeing at every single hurdle failure to change the characteristics, to change this downtrend that we caught ourselves in back up into an uptrend. And recovering the moving averages is not a great signal. It's not the only signal needed to flip this chart bullish. It's a first, it's a start. But yeah, of course, need to take out 88.5k and this 89k 100 EMA. This is what I've been saying in my videos, in my Twitter posts. Where I expect a rejection is 87 to 89k, and that's exactly what's happened. So this area here, 80 to 82, and this final area, 78 to 79, these are two different areas of support. You can see down here when you tapped into this area, you pumped and found support there, and found support right there and there. Another time right there. So very valid level, this 80 to 82k level. You could argue because the bounces, when they recovered from this lower support, they confirmed 80 to 82 as support. You could argue that on the loss of this, it's kind of already signaled that the lower one will be lost, like a precursor signal. I'll be more than confident in saying that if this 80 to 82k level is lost, that this low will definitely get lost, because even if we see a move up from here, it just won't sustain like what you keep seeing, all these failed pumps. If you get a move down into there in the first place, that's super negative because you're breaching this as support, you're breaching the bottom. You found a new bottom, so what does that mean for this previous bottom? Now it becomes the top, and you hit that and you confirm it as resistance once again, like what we saw yesterday. What happens from there? We continue low. Guys, if you want to get educated to learn this all and to do it yourself, identify it all, learn how to place the fibs and understand your expectations set when certain levels hold or when certain levels break, consider joining one of our weekly group calls. I do it once a week in the Discord. If you want to check out maybe something more one-to-one, I do have private mentorship. So use the link, take yourself to the website, the link's in the description. I'll see you over there. Cheers.